Oh, look at that. It's a very special Bring It In on this Monday morning. Bring It In is TrueHoop's little Zoom from quarantine show. David Thorpe, how are you?
I'm doing great, and I wanted to tell you something funny to start the show.
Okay.
While we were talking this morning, I was on my very often I do a morning walk. I was attacked by a dog, and you never
Wait,
knew it.
what?
Yeah, two women were walking their dogs. One was loose totally, and I was walking by. We live across from a beautiful park, but there's a busy road nearby it, and this one dog is running around. And I was worried as I'm talking to you that this dog would run to the road. They didn't seem worried, but I was. Meanwhile, the woman that actually had her dog on a leash, it went after me and tried to bite me. And I just kind of swerved to the side. That's what happens when you get to be a middle-aged man. Like, you don't sweat dogs anymore.
It sounded like you just said the woman tried to bite you. Is that what you said?
No, her dog. No,
Okay.
I don't think she was even paying attention. Her dog was on a leash. This thing took a snipe at me. Yeah. I'm not afraid
What'd
of
you
dogs,
do?
but nothing. I was talking to you on the phone.
I can't believe you didn't maybe citizen's arrest. It's time for citizen's arrest. That's what you got to do.
If I had not been on the phone with you, I might have said, ma'am, like, if your dog's a biter, maybe keep it on a shorter leash.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, I might have panicked when I was in my 20s, but when you get old, you're just too tired to panic. Like, whatever. I wasn't going to get killed from the dog.
I've spent most of my adult life with a dog that I consider to be not a series of dogs, all of which I consider to be very good dogs. Yeah. But almost every one of them has been the kind of dog that when I have it on a leash, if another dog runs up, my dog's a jerk. And I wish that weren't the case, but I've had that dog. So oftentimes there's like this, I'm following the rules. I got my dog on leash, and then someone has their dog and they're like, oh, he's fine. Blah, blah. I'm like, get your dog.
Right. Exactly.
I'm telling you. Get your dog.
we tell my dog, by the way, for the first time ever, is with us on the show. He's sleeping on the floor next to me. Wilson is.
Wait, can we see?
I showed Judy earlier. No, he is comfortable laying, eyes closed. He's okay. Wilson, you want to come say hi?
You can move the camera,
I have to. He just come here, buddy. Come here. I've done this twice now. Come here.
Oh,
you see,
buddy, he's so tired. Oh,
buddy.
What's up, buddy?
He's a chill little guy.
Oh my God, he's so tired right now.
Yeah, he's always a little sleepy. I think he's got heartworms. So yeah, he's got some heartworms. So I think it wears him down a little bit. He's a good boy. So all right, we got
Randy's
some serious
wife
stuff
got bit by a dog yesterday. What the heck?
Hey, that isn't nice.
Yeah, that's not nice. What is going on? What's this
dogs? Revenge of the dogs.
What's going on?
Revenge of the dogs. Yeah, I mean, come on, you can't let your dog on a leash almost bite a dude walking in a park.
No, I can't have that.
All right, so let's get to some serious.
So here's the reason it's a special show is that I spent a tremendous amount of time preparing this TrueHoop post that we just published. It was going to publish like 9:00 this morning, but I had some last minute changes and stuff. And basically, ordinarily, you and I collaborate extensively on the documents prepared for the show. Today, you did it. So other than a little talk about this thing I just published, we're going to have an exciting thing where I'm going to say, there's something in here about the Jazz, and then you're going to explain what's going on. So I guess I'll explain this really fast. On the show, Carl Sudler pointed out that the Bucks have a jersey that could be confused with the thin blue line flag. That got me like thinking, well, what's this? There's the jersey. Judy's showing it now. Then I noticed something that really struck me as important. George Hill was with Sterling Brown, like one of the loudest voices in the Black Lives Matter movement in the NBA and especially for the Bucks. George Hill and Sterling Brown stood with microphones and explained why the Bucks would not be playing Game 5 of their first round series against the Magic. It led to a strike for the whole NBA and MLB and other sports around the globe. Sterling Brown had been like literally on the mic for a 7,500 person Bucks organized Black Lives Matter march in June in Milwaukee. These were, and of course, Sterling Brown was involved in a giant police incident where he was tased over a parking issue. There you go. I constantly, do I not playing it? I find this like upsetting. I don't know if anybody else does, but like these, anyway, yeah. And he sued and settled a lawsuit. What struck me was they're both gone now. And George Hill says that he thinks he's gone from the team because of his leadership on this issue. Well, he doesn't exactly say that. Let me read it to you. He told Mark Spears, a great guy, when you do stuff that ruffles feathers and is outside the norm, you got to know there's going to be some backlash with it. I prepared myself that summer for me probably not being there. People thought I was probably crazy for thinking that, but I'm human. It is what it is. We've seen that many times. We saw Colin Kaepernick kneel for what he believed, and they tried to destroy his life. I was going to accept that with open arms if I wasn't going to be able to go play for Milwaukee again. No disrespect to them. They did what they thought was right for the organization. And then Mark asked, "Do you think the Bucks trading you was simply a basketball move or more than that?" And George says, "We will never know, right? It ain't me to speak upon that if it is more. If it's more than basketball, then they will live with that. If it wasn't, we'll never know. I'm sure they won't flat out come and say it. So it doesn't really matter." And then there's like the saddest part. If you skip ahead a bit, Mark asks, "Do you still enjoy the game of basketball despite what's going on in the world and being traded?" And he says, "I still enjoy the game. I'm not a fan of basketball in terms of watching it and playing video games, being locked into every game that comes on TV. But I am in love with the competitive side. I love to compete. I love to go out there and play with my teammates. With that being said, I still love the game. It's a little different now, going from team to team. You try to give everything you got to an organization, being loyal and things like that. Sometimes it doesn't feel reciprocated. But like they say, it's a business, right?" There's a lot in the story. I don't want to discuss it all here. It'll take all show. Frankly, it's confusing. But I would just say one thing, which is that organizations have a lot of ways to elevate players, right? They give them jobs and voices, and there's so many teams that are associated with past players. It would have been amazing if the Bucks had been super loyal to George Hill and Sterling Brown, who really stuck their necks out on the most important issue, right? It would have been amazing if they hadn't made them play in jerseys that kind of look like Blue Lives Matter jerseys, or if Sterling Brown hadn't had to play on a night that the game ball was presented by the head of the police association that had been terrible in his comments about Sterling Brown's upsetting arrest. It'd be great if George Hill didn't have any thoughts like this at all, right? I could go on, but if you read the story, we're going to make a free version of it later today. But anyway, there you go. If you have any thoughts, there's another one. Okay, there's one other little part of this, just for the record. The blue on the jersey, the most common social media response is like, "It represents the Great Lakes." And it's like, okay, like it was proposed to the NBA in 2014 before the thin blue line jersey was even a known thing, and that's the year that both were created. I think it's probably extremely unlikely, maybe even impossible, that that jersey that we're looking at right now was patterned on the Black Lives Matter flag. It was developed with a cream background and sent to the NBA in 2014. So it's not really about like, was there some kind of scheming intent when they first invented this jersey? That's not what we're talking about. That'll be whatever it is. We'll probably never know. What it's about is they introduced this one in 2019. And by then, that flag was famous. And by then, it would be great not to have any confusion about where you stand on these kinds of police issues. Anyway, I talked a lot there. David, you want to add anything?
Well, just as I said to you a little bit on the phone, we're not bad people if we're ignorant, unless we choose to remain ignorant. I didn't know about the Tulsa massacre and the riot, but that doesn't make me a bad person. I studied Black history for a year in my 30s and didn't uncover that. After having a whole life in dealing with mostly Black players as a coach, whatever. And so we're always, to me, we should be on a never-ending quest to just be smarter, be more mindful of things, be more aware of things. And we do that by not just being more aggressive in how we read and consume content, but in who our friends are and who we talk to and who we associate with and learn from. And so at the very least, articles like this, I would hope, would have an impact long-term with the 30 NBA franchises to be more mindful and more present about what's going on in their world and do something about it. Accommodate the fact that we change all the time. Things in our culture today aren't necessarily so great. Like you couldn't make the show Entourage today the way it was made just 20 years ago. I listened to that podcast, that Victory the podcast, and they acknowledge it. The creator of the show acknowledges it all the time. I could never do these kinds of things. And maybe you shouldn't have before. That's a different argument. We should be learning, not remain ignorant. It's not a sin to be ignorant. It's a sin to remain so.
There you go. All right. So we can talk about that a little more later if you want. Okay, but let's roll through some basketball stuff. All right, David, you have found some. Well, this is gonna be hilarious. I'm just gonna say topics. I don't really know what they're about, and then you're gonna explain. Or do you want to do it? Do you want to lead the rest of the show?
No, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Basically, all I did was knowing you'd be so busy and all weekend you've been consumed with this amazing topic, which is not the easiest topic to write about, to be
tricky,
fair.
Yeah.
I just threw out just the things that hit me over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want to be real lengthy with my description. So I just did one word for lots of different things.
It's great.
Yeah.
But you go for it. Talk us through what's next.
All right. So the first thing is, you and I were talking yesterday before the Blazers played the Knicks, and I'm focusing on the Knicks. As it turns out, I'm writing about the Knicks and a bunch of other, a number of other surprises in the NBA after the first quarter of the season is completed, now that it's completed. And you reminded me when I was talking about watching New York last night, you said, hey, pay attention to Damian. They've been off for 6 days. Now, Damian hasn't had the classic 6 days of rest because his wife had twins. So I know what that's like, literally. And rest, quote unquote, is not necessarily a term you'd use for a father of who already had a 3-year-old son to begin with, but he wasn't playing basketball. So it is officially rest that way. And you said, just pay attention. And I don't remember if he made his first 5 shots, but he made his first bunch of shots and looked like, I mean, literally, as you said to me on the phone yesterday, imagine if they had played twice a week, every week, this might be what it looks like. And I thought about that when he was just on another level. Like Damian Lillard is must-watch TV, even though he's surrounded by, Enes Kanter and actually Jones played great last night. Jones Jr. had a very, very good game.
Yeah.
But Damian was incredible. And so the word I had for him was fresh.
Yeah.
He was just fresh last night. And
there
this three that we're showing, that was a big three. The Knicks were down big, 25 at one point, I believe. And then they cut it to single digits. Then he busted a 3 off a double screen. That was very nice. He was doing everything too, not just scoring. So it just made me think of your words. If we did only play 2 games a week, and I'm not suggesting we should or shouldn't, that's a different story. He would look like this a lot more, and it'd be worthwhile watching for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Also, I did notice he said that he had only slept in, that little crappy other hospital bed, when you have a baby, the dad bed. Some hospitals don't have it at all. Yeah. But like he slept on that bed. It's the only bed he slept in since Wednesday, which is everything I said about fatigue might be total horse crap, because I'm sure he must have been tired.
Well, the first few days are the best because at least they're in the hospital. So I know that when I think I went home at 2 a.m, one of the greatest drives home of my life, knowing that my twins were secure in their crib. There's nurses there. My wife was fast asleep, and I didn't have a bed. We had a chair, and I just knew everyone had told me, better get your rest before you bring him home. Meanwhile, they made us take him home 2 days later. And that first night, there was no sleeping. So the hospital was better anyway.
All right. So now you're telling me the Knicks have good defense? Is that what's happening?
Yeah. So the Knicks, the word I have for them is grimy. Like and again, I'm writing about this as we speak, so I won't go too much into it now, but they were number 2 in defensive rating going into the game. They're number 5 now. Portland shot great, but they're getting blown out. And yet blown out. The game was not competitive until all of a sudden they're right there. So they're still a negative 1.4 offensive minus defensive rating, but the defensive rating is number 5 in the league. That's very impressive. And that's what Tom Thibodeau has brought. Like there's a griminess about them that I don't think you ever would have said about them before. The other word I thought about using is Kentucky, because they have 4 former Kentucky players on their team, and we know about that connection, but they didn't bring any of those guys in. Like those guys, well, maybe they brought one of them in, I think Noel, but and Cantor, I guess, too. But they drafted Kevin Knox before. Whatever. They're an interesting team to watch. They're not really loaded with talent, and I don't know what they're going to do with Julius Randle. I would love to, like they're not on the same timetables. Randle is playing like an all-star right now, but their best players probably aren't even playing for the Knicks right now. They're draft picks. RJ Barrett looks like he's coming. He's got a ways to go, but he's coming around. Obi Toppin has moments where you're like, hey, but not a lot of them, right? And so, they got this other kid. Oh, I mentioned him later. I mentioned the surprise of their team later on in this document. We'll get to him.
Okay. Do you think I'm a little bit like, oh, okay, so Tom Thibodeau, like obsessive, over the top, like, coach who talks a lot, right? And then now it's starting, people are buying in. Is this a thing where his voice wears out? Like, do they need to get really good before everybody gets tired of him yelling at them? Do you know what I mean?
Of course, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And the answer is maybe. Like, maybe he's learned. It's unfair for me to say.
Yeah.
He is allowed to get better in that way. But there's no questioning his impact on the team defensively. They just they know what they're doing more. Last night they doubled Damian a lot, and I thought Portland didn't handle it great too often. But they've got some players that can, like Toppin's long and quick. Nerlens Noel is terrific. Mitchell Robinson's long and athletic. I like that. I think they should probably do that more, even if they're not playing Damian Lillard after he's fresh. But yeah, the Knicks, they had an identity. They have an identity they haven't had for a while. That's important.
This is exactly what they said they were going to do, right? This is the Leon Rose, William Wesley theory, was they were going to like build this culture and be defensive minded and be super professional and then add talent later. And it's working so far.
I can't argue. That's their mission. They're executing it.
Yeah. Okay. I know every time we talk now, you talk about the Jazz. They're pretty good, huh?
I mean, I was some of the Jazz and they won 4 straight. Now they're, I think, at 8 straight.
Yeah.
They're rolling. We have a mutual friend. Leave that up there, Judy. We have a mutual friend, Henry Rudy, that I texted him maybe game 1. I think they were playing in Portland. I think it was the first game of the year against the Blazers. And I said the Jazz might be the first team ever to take the most threes in the league and shoot the best percentage. Not make the most threes, shoot the best percentage. And they did not start out great. But now they're up to number 2 in the league in 3-point percentage at 40.3. They're at 42, I think, in January. And they're leading the league. I didn't put this on there, but you can look a little bit on this list that we have. They're one of the I think top 2 or 3 in attempts per game, and number 1 in January. And so that's a scary thing when you're shooting that many. They're shooting threes like the Rockets were shooting threes, but making more of them. And then
you did not have players that made 40%.
And they have a ton of them.
Now they have a team that does it.
They have a ton of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like George Niang, one of the best shooters, did not have a good start to the year. And I think he's up to maybe 33% from 3. And he's like number 6 or 7 on their team in threes made. Conley's playing great. We'll talk about him later. They're built for this. And importantly, Rudy Gobert is their 5. So the Rockets were doing this with all smalls, basically, right?
Yeah.
They first were doing it with Capella. Then they really went double down with Pete Tucker. They have a legit 5, and Derek, this is the biggest key. Derek Favors is their backup.
Yeah.
So who's a starting level player. So they never don't have an elite defender. Never don't have an elite defender on the floor unless they're up by 30, which is happening more frequently now. So that's their defense, which was starting the year bad. They're back to being the Jazz. We always know them as a top defensive team. They're rapidly moving up. They're scary good. Yeah, they're scary good. And they've got to get some good play from Bogdanovich and Ingles, which they're getting. I don't know if you can believe they'll do it long term. Donovan's been great, though. We'll talk. I think I mentioned him later, too. Maybe I don't. Donovan is having a great season, better than last year.
Wait, did I tell you the little scuttlebutt I heard about the other reason the Rockets traded Capella? Did I tell you that?
Nope.
It was very, very interesting. Very interesting. So, it seemed like a super big gamble, right? Because now they wouldn't have a big man to guard opponents like Anthony Davis, right? But I didn't, and we can look this up, check me on this, but this is what I heard, is that apparently Clint Capella was particularly bad guarding Anthony Davis himself for years. So the idea was, if you're already going to have a problem playing Capella against the Lakers, you're giving up nothing, right? Like Robert Covington does just as good a job against the guy you actually want to beat. If you're trying to beat the Lakers, Capella's never the answer. So it was easier to trade him because now you have just as good an ability to defend against Anthony Davis, but you add all the other, switchability and offense, etc., that you get with Robert Covington. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
That sounds like Daryl Morey. He is playing chess that way for sure.
Yeah.
I've dealt with him for years on that. He is thinking about those kinds of matchups. Remember, it's just been too many years, but Boston picked up Marcus Morris Sr. Well, it used to be Marcus Morris, then he had a baby, but his son, because of the way he guarded LeBron James.
Yeah.
We saw that on Second Spectrum, I believe. So that's smart. When this is what the analytics teams are doing well, is looking for those kind of matchups.
I think that was the story that I remember was the Pistons got two of the best LeBron defenders in the league.
Morris was one of them.
What's that?
Morris was there too.
Yeah, I think that's when it was. I think that's when it was. It was Morris and somebody else. Maybe it'll appear in the chat magically because people are smarter than I am. This was years ago though. Okay.
Right. That's how we knew Cleveland did it, because Detroit had done it first. That's right. Yeah.
So, okay. You started the season expecting great things from the Raptors, and they let you down. but it's coming around a little bit. How you feeling about your Raptors?
They're doing better. They've won 5 of 6. If you look at their schedule, I mean, they beat Dallas, which is good. They beat Miami, which is good. They beat the Hornets twice. No big deal. Although they're not terrible by any stretch. They're decent for the East. But they beat the Pacers. I want to say it was yesterday. I watched the game without Siakam or Lowry, and they bludgeoned the Pacers until the end. And Toronto's done this a few times. I want to say they're 7-9 on the season. And they've got 2 or 3 losses that were they had the game won and they just lost it. Chris Boucher I have mentioned him later. He's been doing great. They just have a lot of guys. This is why I liked them so much to begin with. They're loaded with athletes. They're right there leading the league in fast break again. So they're surging. The word I have for the Jazz is fire. They're just fire. The Raptors are surging. I'm not ready to say they're all the way back yet. Aaron Baines has not played as well as I thought he might. He's been okay, I think. Maybe some people think he's been less than okay. Siakam has not been what they thought he would be, but it's still, we're 25% of the way in. I think they have a lot of guys. I am not ready to say that. Not only some people think they aren't going to be the playoffs, I'm not ready to say they can't win the East. I still think they can. I still think they can be very, very good. And I think Nick Nurse is great.
So Bilal had a baby last year, and so when you said that the Raptors are surging, he said they're missing surge. Get it? It's like the dad jokes have pummeled into his head in the first few months of being a father.
Well, literally, I did that for a reason. I wasn't too worried about that. I wasn't too worried about losing Ibaka, because you'll see who we mentioned later on.
Yeah,
I think they got the next Ibaka in Chris Boucher.
For sure. Okay, the Clippers, I couldn't help but notice them making 42% of their threes in that chart we just had up there, and suddenly they look really good.
Yeah, they're scary. They're number 1 in the league in three-point shooting. Had been now for maybe 2 weeks. I think Milwaukee's always been up there, and they're just kind of cruising, right? They're just kind of cruising, but they're we know how talented they are. I think that they're kind of fine. Last year they were surging before the pandemic break, and they just never could get it back in the bubble. But offensively, they're rolling again, and they're playing good enough defense. We've talked about this before. I think they have another level or 2 to go defensively, and if they find that footing defensively, as I've said before, I think they're a better team than the Lakers in the postseason. It's maybe stupid to say with LeBron James and Anthony Davis out there, but I think they can really be an elite defensive team, and elite defensive teams with amazing shooting, like I said about the Jazz, applies to the Clippers too.
Yeah, that's a pretty good recipe when you're really good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's talk about the Lakers. They've also won 8 of 10.
Yeah, so they have the Clippers as rolling. The Lakers, when I watch them play, I just feel like they're coming in games prepared. They're not looking to overextend. They know it's a long season, as do the Bucks, a team that hasn't been doing as well. But LA seems very prepared to me. I'm studying a lot of Alex this is what you do, and you're in my position. You study guys like Alex Caruso on defense. Like I'm exchanging video clips at 7:00 this morning with other coaches who were like Ryan Pannone, who's sending me examples of why Alex Caruso should be the next president of the United States, kind of thing. Just, or at least at least Secretary of Defense.
Okay.
He's an amazing defensive player. Dennis Schroeder guarding people. He's got this Rodin wingspan where and getting steals from it and bothering people. Like I'm literally, Henry, sending clips to NBA and professional basketball players from Lakers guards named Dennis Schroeder and Alex Caruso. Yeah. Like, and Wes Matthews, they're chasing guys around. They're prepared. And when you have that kind of talent, it works, right? It works. They're not going anywhere. It's going to be, we thought last year would be Clippers, Lakers. It wasn't. We think this year will be Clippers, Lakers. The Jazz have something to say about that. Maybe the Nuggets will come around, but it very well could be Clippers, Lakers, and it's going to be an epic battle if it is.
It's kind of fun to have the Knicks and the Lakers be these like defensive toughness teams, right? Like, didn't see that 5 years ago. That's for damn sure.
On that subject, I don't want to we have a lot to cover, and I don't know, and we got to get Gerard in at some point. I know. I watched again. ESPN did this, or I don't know who did. I thought 30 for 30. Lakers versus Celtics, like all the different series championships. Being a Laker fan in the 80s, those were a couple of bad moments, but some really good ones. And the joy in watching Pat Riley and Magic Johnson talking about Kareem when they won the championship in '85, which I watched every game. You know, I lived on this edge of my seat in college. The physical, first of all, they love to show the fights in those games. I'm so glad we're past that. I don't romanticize those things. That is an embarrassment to me that grown men are willing to fight over a basketball game. I think that's stupid. But there's no question of the buy-in these players had to win. And I don't want to forget saying this. Kareem hits the game-winning kind of game series icing jump hook from 15 feet, whatever. And he comes down the court and his arms are up in the air. It's a very famous video. He's doing that. And Pat Riley demonstrates it. And Magic Johnson, too, they put in separate interviews. And like Kareem never did that. And so then to see the joy that Kareem was feeling, and they interviewed Kareem, of course, years later. And I only say this now because I thought of Hank Aaron. And we grew up watching Hank Aaron's game. I mentioned this before. But I didn't appreciate him as an older man. We didn't follow it. Kareem is still relevant. Like he's still writing brilliant pieces and saying poignant things on air. And I'm going to tweet him today. He won't respond probably, but Daniel Dale responded from CNN to something I tweeted. Never expected that because he used to email you. I'm so glad that Kareem is still here and that we can cherish him because he was such an incredible player. Was he your pick for best player of all time?
No.
Who was your? Oh, you had LeBron. Steph. Was
LeBron?
LeBron won. Where was Kareem for you? Do you remember?
No, this was David. You're hitting a sore spot for me.
Oh, you didn't have him in the top 5, did you?
No.
That's right. Gerard and I did. Yeah. What did I?
If I could do it again, I would put Kareem in the top 5. You guys totally convinced me on that.
Oh my God! Watching that again. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. All right, let's get to the Miami Heat.
There's a lot going on here. Yeah. Miami Heat. Talk me through it.
So they've just been unsteady. They've been unsteady. They play Toronto back-to-back. We have this cool thing now, right, where we've got these back-to-back games, not always on these consecutive nights, but like a playoff game. And they split with Detroit. They split with Toronto, which isn't a terrible thing. Toronto's good. And then Philly beat them twice. And yet they have the guys they thought they would have. Maybe losing Jones, who went to Portland, has made a difference. I've not really broken them down as much as I need to probably. But I just know we expected more from them. I know this too. Eric Spoelstra is no one to be trifled with. I give him time. I still think they're going to be a very, very good team in the East, but for now, not.
I tell you what, I watched Derek Jones Jr. a lot. He's like probably the player I most focus on in the NBA because I'm a Blazers fan, but also because he's very interesting to watch. He does a lot of fun to watch. Things. And a lot of the time I'm like, why would the Heat let this guy go? Right? Like, seems like exactly what they would want. I know he didn't get much playing time. They just have a lot of players, but but he's starting, and I saw who published this. I forget now, but basically, if you look at who's playing defense against the players who actually use the ball the most, did you see this?
No.
Very interesting. With Derrick Jones Jr., top 5 in the NBA, and just like basically, this is what it looks like to me. It's like, if Steph Curry has the ball all game, Derrick Jones Jr. is on him, and LeBron, it's on, like, he's just working in a way that I think will really matter to Robert Covington in the long term, because Robert Covington is now not having to chase everybody all over the place. He'll be a lot fresher in the playoffs. But yeah, as I watch him working, and effectively so, not perfectly, but effectively so, he's long and so athletic, and I'm like, well, how do you let this guy just be a affordable free agent? It doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. He's one of my favorite guys to watch too. He played great last night.
Yeah.
And Miami they're just whatever. It's just not quite clicking.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't quit on them. I'm not quitting on them.
Okay. Grizzlies, 5-game win streak.
Yeah, speedy. They're fast. They're second in the league. They're not second in the league in points off fast break. They're second in percentage of points, meaning they really need to fast break or they're going to struggle to score. I want to say they're a top 5 defense. I could be wrong, but I think they are. But they're fast, and they got this 5-game win streak. But Morant's only played 2 games, so I just I'm biased towards coaches. There's a good number of young coaches in this league. The Pacers have done a great job. We mentioned them before. Memphis is in good hands with their team. They're not going to contend for a championship, but Memphis fans should be excited. They're finding ways. Pragmatism is one of my favorite things about a team, and I'll talk about it later with another team. You got to find ways to win games, and you got to find ways to orient your talent. I texted you over the weekend. The Wizards picked up Jordan Bell because they need a center. I get it, but I just want teams to grab talent and then reorganize around that talent, and not just, okay, we got to fill the center spot. Like, I like what Houston did when they went super small for the reasons you described. I think that's a more innovative way is the smarter way. And Memphis is finding ways. I mean, they're not grit and grind anymore. That's for sure.
Well, and there's something weird about the NBA compared to other basketball leagues where it seems to make sense to play super fast, and they just so few teams sustain that strategy, right? Like, everybody talks about it in training camp. 10 teams demonstrably do it, and then 2 months later, it's like 2 teams are doing it, right? Like, why is it so hard to play fast in the NBA?
It's not. They have to commit to it. This is where management and coaching have to get together. Speaking of coaching, Judy, can we play the JaVale McGee Instagram? Mm-hmm. He just posted, I want to say last night or this morning, a tribute to his mom, who I don't follow any league in the world except for a couple of professional leagues. His mom was a WNBA player. And it's just this beautiful, he points to a thing, my mom in the 90s, and it's just her picture. And the reason why I wanted to put it on there is I've said for years that this league is the most ready league in the world to embrace a woman as a coach, as a head coach, women as head coaches, not one woman, women. In part because, let's just be fair, NFL players would feel the same, but their moms didn't play high-level football or even middle-level football. Maybe one day they will. They're not doing it now. We've got a whole bunch of women who played high-level basketball their whole lives and had great coaching and tons of experience. And you've got a player base that's used to following leadership of women. It's just how it is. All of us are. We all, in most cases, in American culture to this day, are the moms run the household typically for whatever reason. That doesn't mean there's not plenty of dads that have, and we all are involved. But we used to listen to our moms. We got in big trouble when we didn't. Let's make them. I think JaVale, if I don't know what his mom even does, but if she wanted to coach, he'd be listening. I think they'd be ready to follow. So I just wanted to say that. And then, and let's do the Reggie Miller. Did you see the Reggie Miller interview with Steph Curry?
No, you told me about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's so Steph Curry broke Reggie Miller's record for threes in his career, and then in his post-game press conference with his Zoom call, Reggie was on, and his son was on his lap, and his son, I think Steph's his favorite player,
What does it say, David, in the doc? I don't see it.
I put it. She's got it right here.
There we go. Yay.
So this is at the end of it. This is great. Watch this. Oh,
I can't hear it.
No, we don't hear it. Oh, shoot. So it's really cute. So Reggie's son talks to Steph.
Encourage me
Steph
the way
talks
y'all
about-
have. It means a lot. So I'll pass that torch on as well. But I appreciate you, man. And thanks for all the support. It means a lot.
Don't leave too much room because this could be coming.
All records are meant to be broken. We know that.
That is true. Hold on, let me get it right since I shot with my. There you go. You need that follow through for me.
I shoot a shot.
Do you get what he did there, Henry?
No.
So, okay, let me explain it. This is so brilliant. So Reggie's son has this great question. They have this lovely interplay where Reggie, unlike Shaq the other day with Donovan Mitchell, is actually really a fan of Steph Curry, inspired by Steph Curry, and his son loves Steph Curry. And so he's like, as Steph said, records are made to be broken. So there'll be someone to break mine, whatever. And Reggie's like, and he's doing his son is shooting, but then he starts crossing his arms over because that's how Reggie shot it.
Right.
And so only a geek like me would probably notice that. Gerard, I think, noticed it too. I just saw in the chat. But I thought that was really clever. I don't think Reggie is probably teaching his son to shoot like him, just like we'd never teach someone to shoot like Larry Bird, but you would never change Larry Bird's shot, really.
Right.
I thought that was a clever thing. But I just like the interplay. If you can't be fans of the world's best players, I don't care what your background is. You don't need to be on TV anymore. Like, we need to start. Let's just have. You can be critical, but let's not act like these basketball players are being journalists. There's no journalistic integrity to their criticism. If there was, I'd feel differently. You can be sober and rational and also be appreciative of someone like Steph. So anyway, I thought that was a great interview.
Super fun. Should we talk about DeMarcus Cousins?
Yeah, so he had a monster 28 point, 17 rebound game. And he admitted after the game that he didn't know if he'd ever have a monster game again.
Oh, wow.
And talk about the word I used for him was reminding, because it reminded me of why I thought Golden State was just going to roll through everyone last year. And when people thought DeMarcus would never fit, if you remember, we were already with TrueHoop. I thought he was going to be great for Golden State, and he was. Mm-hmm. And then he got hurt. And for him to have this game, I didn't mention the Rockets, but I almost did, because Houston has a purpose to them. Like they feel, I think, dismissed. I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
By James Harden. And so, yeah, they're no pushover. And when you think about who they got on their team, like DeMarcus, like PJ, these aren't a bunch of little skinny dudes, right? And nothing against Damian Lee. They're not Damian Lee and Andrew Wiggins. There's a force behind them when they're playing this way. So Caleb wrote, they're playing to keep the lights on. That's funny.
Can I tell you my DeMarcus Cousins quote that seems relevant now? Is at draft time, when he was being drafted, there was like convincing evidence that he was, going to upset your team, like going to cause problems, right? And kind of did. I mean, it might not be his fault, right? It might be that the teams weren't well designed to handle a big personality like his, but I was forced to call people to sort of figure out like what's the deal with this guy. I ended up calling someone who knows him well.
I remember.
I basically asked, like, is DeMarcus Cousins crazy? And this guy's like, the only thing crazy about DeMarcus Cousins is he can't stop getting double doubles. Awesome.
I spoke to one of his former agents about what his life was like growing up, and I spent a couple of days coaching his younger brother when he was a young pro. DeMarcus I thought he grew up a ton. I really we didn't even remember the old DeMarcus. My son might know it, but the average 20-year-old wouldn't even realize what DeMarcus was like then. He's a very different guy. If you can't root for him, I don't know how you have a heart.
Well, and I always think about you, David, saying like basically, sergeant major type coaches can coach one type of player, but how many different kinds of players can you coach? I feel like this is where the league probably let DeMarcus down, right? Like he could really play. I mean, he always could.
Oh, amazing.
Right?
He's an MVP level talent for sure.
Yeah.
Was. And so I don't know 28-17 if he's going to happen again, but it's great. It was just great to see. So another player that reminded of us who he is over the weekend was Gordon Hayward is doing that for Charlotte.
Yeah.
He had a monster game the other night, and I have it on the link there, Judy. But he's threatened to be like a 50, 40, 90 guy.
Yeah.
As the best player on his team. He's 39 the other day. 50% from the field, 42 from three, 87 from the line with 3.5 assists, 24 points a game. Like, those are astounding numbers, easy all-star numbers. And I don't know that he's worth as much as they're paying over the next few years, but he's having a phenomenal season. He chose it. He chose this. He could have played for a contender, and maybe one day they will be. I don't know that he'll be the best player on his team if they get to be contenders, unless they make some moves. But nonetheless, he's reminding everyone how incredible he is.
And it was one of the most roundly panned moves in recent NBA history, right?
For sure.
Okay, not bad. Well done.
Listen, LaMelo Ball. I think James Borrego has done a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Like he probably would be I don't know if he'd be my coach of the year. He might be my coach of the year because I thought LaMelo had a ton to learn, as I've written about, and he's still roundly getting beat up in terms of plus minus whatever, but he's definitely showing signs, and I think they're handling him well. The other day, he played 16 minutes in the game. LaMelo did. Borrego sat him because he had 5 turnovers in 16 minutes, and that prompted LaMelo's dad to speak up, which is no surprise there. But I give Borrego credit. He is not just kissing his ass, and he's done a great job with Hayward and some of the other guys too. He's done well.
All right, Emmanuel quickly. So fun to watch.
Dangerous. 31 off the bench last night. He didn't single-handedly bring New York back, but he was a big part of it. He's a big part.
I watched a highlight package where he didn't miss a single shot, so he must be amazing.
He was very good. He had a left hand. I don't remember if it was left leg, left. Normally, if you shoot a left-hand shot back before Steve Nash, you always went off your right leg. And then Nash and Rondo, they kind of created the left foot, left hand, right foot, right hand shots, which we all practice all the time now. And he had a 6 shot. I don't remember if it was left foot or not, but it was definitely left hand, just a soft little floater, like just softly off the glass. Clyde Frazier was impressed.
Okay, so what pick was he? Like 31 or something like that, I think.
Oh, that was late first. I don't remember.
Late first.
I don't remember.
But I think if you Googled it at the moment, like CAA pick, right?
Yeah.
But
from Kentucky.
What's that?
From Kentucky.
Yeah, this is a very cozy.
Yeah.
Like the story started to write itself, but no, it's like I don't know. I feel like the other Knicks are like, is the shot clock's getting low? Like, give it to he's the guy who can get a bucket right now, and like once they start treating you like that, you got the potential to have some pretty high scoring games.
Right. I mean, he's good. He's good. He's brave. He's quick. He's athletic. I'd never seen him play before. I mean, I saw highlights only. And I loved what I saw last night. I'll see them play. They play the Jazz tomorrow night, the hottest team in the league. So, and this will be game 4 of a road trip. So, a Western road trip for New York. So, but no, he's been doing great.
David, you have prepared us so well for today that we have like double the amount of content we're going to get to. Do you want to pick some highlights of what's left that you want to make sure we don't miss?
I'll do one more because I could do 20 more. Let's do the Steph Curry one, Judy, where it says Curry mind blowing because it's important. This play, if you watch on video here, he does a number. This was the shot to break Reggie's mark. He makes a pass that very few people can make. And then he races behind 3. This is what Steph Curry does. Left-hand loop pass behind 3. That's at real time against Mike Conley. Like he makes it look easy. So few players ever have done that. He does it all the time. So again, we teach this now, Henry. The one-hand pass with left hand, I mean, I made my son do it all the time. That isn't such a big deal. It's not easy to do. But his repositioning after the pass is very Steph Curry.
Sorry, you watch it one more time and just watch Mike Conley.
Yeah.
After he doesn't block it, he's like,
Right. You can't give him 1 inch, but just that combination, So he's in the middle, throws it out, runs behind three, catch and shoot all in the blink of an eye. That's the image of Steph Curry that I have more than anything else, because no one's ever done it like that, where you're racing behind three. Remember, you're running the opposite direction from the rim. You're going away from the rim to be able to square, turn, shoot in the blink of an eye and do it the way he does it. Is just no one's ever done it like that before.
I mean, everybody can attempt it.
Oh yeah, you
can attempt it. It just doesn't go in.
Yeah. The taking of the shot is not the impressive part. Like, you can make the car reservation, right? But they need to have the reservation for you with the car. He delivers, right? More than anyone ever. So yeah, he's something else. All right, you want to get Gerard on?
Let's get Gerard Hector here, please, if we may.
And I have the Nets listed on my, I don't want to paint Gerard into only talking Nets, of course.
Henry,
they're a very interesting team, and I have next to them, Gerard. I have the word unknown.
Gerard wants to talk about the Bucks, though.
Well, before I even get to your point, Coach, and hello, how are you? And
hi, how's it going?
And Henry, the Bucks. Henry, you left the league's only 6-time MVP, the league's all-time leading scorer.
Thank you.
The career wins share leader, number 1 in offensive win share, number 3 in defensive. You kept him off your list, and to make it worse, you put Steph Curry in ahead of him. What do you think?
Hey, by the way, when I fix this in some years down the road to kick someone off the list to make room for Will, I won't be kicking Steph off.
No, we should have a Steph Curry conversation another time.
Did you see the video? Did you watch what David just showed us?
Listen, whatever. I don't have time for that. I think we anyway, it doesn't matter. So about the Bucks really quick, and then Coach will talk about the Nets.
Whatever you want.
So, the Bucks are owned by Wes Edens and Mark Lazary. Mark Lazary is a billionaire, as is Wes Edens. Mark Lazary made his money. He's a hedge fund manager. Edens is a private equity fund manager. Those funds manage institutional money, not your little $20 E-Trade account or your little brokerage account that you fool around with online. No, they invest hundreds of millions to billions of dollars. Well, how can you find at a moment's notice hundreds of millions of dollars? Pension funds, like CalPERS, like police unions, all these different things, okay? So as with everything else, follow the money, and that will tell you what's going on with everything. So Lazary and Edens may present Democratic fronts and support Democratic candidates and may actually care about their players to some extent. You know what they care about more? Their money. And their money is tied into police unions and these things. So it wouldn't shock me if for some reason there was some kind of connection between, all right, we get a lot of money from these people. Let's just keep their little blue line on here. Nobody will notice it and whatever. But if we dig deep and find some email server somewhere, there's a note somewhere about some connection to this. And let us also not forget, Nike, who, look, they love to do their social justice thing. They give police officers a 20% discount. All right. So, let's just call it what it is, right? Follow the money and the business, and this is what it is.
Well, I think, and too, I think it's very important to a typical NBA billionaire to be lauded and accepted by the players. Mm-hmm. It's kind of why you buy the team.
Yes.
Right? And there have been many player voices on Black Lives Matter issues. To me, the shortcut to making real political waves is this sort of private equity opening, right? Where I don't know why we haven't seen it. I don't know anywhere other than TrueHoop where anyone's ever discussed it, period. This is the same offices where the Brooklyn-based design agency, according to this great article on ESPN, Paul Lucas, they go and present the new Milwaukee Bucks uniform to the billionaire investor who runs the Milwaukee Bucks in Manhattan. So they take a subway ride, maybe an Uber, 15 minutes to a billionaire's office. That same office, same waiting room, right, has courted police unions, including the NYPD, right? What the heck? So now we have to honor Wisconsin, these people from Brooklyn are going to Manhattan to pick the color of a lake that they've never seen in the Midwest. And in the same office, there's a lot, to me, it's I'm not going to suppose what anybody was thinking or feeling, what the motivations were. I don't know. I wasn't there. but it'd just be nice if they could clear this up, right? If I were LeBron James, I would definitely say, hey, could you divest with the cop money? You know, I don't know. That doesn't happen. It seems like if you were serious about this, that's what you would do.
100%. And I think that's the thing, right? Ultimately, even if you're on the side of good, but to do the most good, the money fucks everything up, right? Like that, the money complicates everything. Yeah. And that's everybody, even someone like LeBron James who wants to do as well as he does, right? Like China's a big market for him to do what he does. Well, they might have some human rights violations, right? So
investments.
Right? Investments. Exactly. It's not as simple as that. So anyway, that's that.
Thank
okay.
You.
The Nets. They're a train wreck. No.
No, I wrote unknown because I think I'm pretty good as it relates to looking forward. I don't know what to think of them. Like, I know I'm not blown away, but I'm also I know enough to know that they might be able to figure it out. I happen to think they might be able to. I'm not saying they can't.
I think, and you see it in games. There are stretches, coach, where they can play defense.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
You're like, oh, you guys actually know how to do this. But the problem is it's only for stretches, right? Because they get out to these leads in a lot of games, 15, 18 points. That's not just because of offense. They're getting stops too. And then for whatever reason, because you need more connectivity, more time, whatever, it goes away. And then it's like, they're in these 140 to 138 shootouts because, well, when you can't lock the other team down consistently like the Lakers can, this is what you're into, right? Like, so you have to win these games 122 to 118 or whatever. And that's, as we know, come playoff time, that shit ain't happening. That is not sustainable.
Well, Henry says this about the Knicks. Henry said this about the Knicks, this is how they're going to start. We talked about this last year with the Lakers and Frank Vogel, who I was not championing Frank Vogel, but at some point during the season, it was clear they built an identity there. And it didn't hurt when Anthony Davis came in saying, we're going to guard people and I'm holding Braun accountable. That mattered, right? It mattered that LeBron led the league in assists last year. Mm-hmm. The guy could have scored 40 a game, no doubt, right? That's the culture and identity that they were building. The Nets have a choice.
Yep.
I don't know what they're going to choose. That's why I say it's unknown. I don't know what they're going to do. How are they going to play? What are they going to buy into? I don't believe they can just flip that switch.
No.
Come May and win the championship or even get to the finals.
No.
You got to build that.
They'll flame out in the second round if they do that shit.
You got to build that.
It sounds blasphemous, but here's my idea. Because he's the most capable and the most switchable, do you then say as your Nash, you're like, look, Kevin, you got to be the one to do this on defense. And it may take away some of your legs on offense, which I know it sounds blasphemous because he is their best offensive player and it's not close, but he's also their best defender. Do you make him, all right, this is where I need you to focus. And on the offensive end, we'll kind of figure that out, but like, let Kyrie and James bleed that end.
So first of all, I reject your initial notion that it's not close.
Oh,
James Harden's on their team.
Yeah, but come on, coach.
No.
Kevin Durant's 7 feet tall. Like, stop. Like,
no.
No.
If you want to say that Durant is more beautiful to look at on the court playing basketball, I completely agree. But I'm not going to allow you to entertain a conversation to say it's not close.
All right, fine. Close, but if I got a choice, who I want, it's
I'm fine with that. Okay. You can say Durant's a better offensive player. I can argue with you, but I wouldn't say that I'm definitely right. It's close, but I think you're right. I think Durant should play more center, and I think he needs to set a tone defensively like AD and LeBron did last year. I think you're absolutely right. The challenge is he's coming off the Achilles thing, right?
That's the problem, Henry.
Right. So I don't know what the timing needs to be, but I think you're dead right. Kevin Durant. And by the way, there are many possessions where he just stands in the corner like a 3-and-D guy.
Yeah.
As Kyrie and James like, woo.
And because he's so efficient scoring, maybe that'll work. Because he doesn't need, everyone loves to say they're 3 ball dominant guys. Kevin can be ball dominant if he needs to be, but he's the most efficient of the 3. Catch and shoot, and that thing's almost automatic. So,
I think years ago there was some research that basically like teams play in the playoffs roughly like the regular season would predict, but the big exception was teams that have recently won championships. because they kind of know how long the season. This is me theorizing. You do take some. Your effort is lower in the regular season because you're right. You're accurate. You know how much more work there is to come, so you don't go all out in the regular season, right? So this is a team with 2 of their 3 big stars are champions, right? So I think that might be a little bit of why it isn't 100% effort all the time, because 100% all the time costs you later, right? So this is why I would say really fast is I think this would be a great team for your, hey, Kevin, which 12 games do you want to sit out? Hey, Kyrie, which 12 games do you want to sit out? And so then but if you're in there, you better fucking play, right?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And was thinking that when Gerard was first talking, that you got 3 guys that already know, right? The problem is there's no core. I think Milwaukee this is going to sound stupid. I think they're soon about to go on a fucking crazy win streak.
Because if this happens, you're going to look so smart, David.
I'm just saying they know look up their defensive rating. You can't find them.
Yeah.
They've dominated the league, but guess who's number 1 on offense this year? Milwaukee.
Yeah.
They know what they have to do defensively. Their core is mostly intact. And at some point, I think they're pissed that they're 10-6 or whatever they are, 11-6, 10-6. I think they're about to say, fuck it. Let's unleash the Kraken and start guarding people. Drew Holiday can guard, right? Giannis, we know what he can do. When they start guarding people with the league's best offense, they're going to go back in destructive mode like they've been before. And they can do that now. They've waited a little bit. We're almost in February now. I think they're about to get ugly on people. And the Nets don't have that core.
Yeah.
They earn it.
That's their challenge. They don't.
But Gerard, don't you think Nash should say, guys, if we run out of steam, let's run out of steam. But let's prove that we can win at a record rate now. And I'll do my best to get subs in. And you and I, we all agree that you should be resting guys. They don't need all 3 to be a great offense.
No.
They can sit guys. And you can always sit Kyrie and not worry about the defense. So they can play around with that all they want. They need to, or they're not going to make it.
It's hard, right? Because one of the things that teams like the Nuggets and even the Mavericks and the Bucks, what they have is continuity, right?
Yeah.
Guys all know each other. They've got reps to go back into their brain. This crew doesn't have reps to go back into. So it's how do we build it, to your point, at the same time, but also realize at the end of the day, it's about us winning in the end, right? So how do you, in a 72-game season when you're playing every other night, I don't really know how you balance that, right?
Well, and some of those teams that are playing really good D right now didn't just trade Jared Allen away.
Well, yeah, there's also that. I was saying the other day, you know what would help them right now? Jared Allen would be.
It would really help them.
We're not alone. Right. Yeah, we're not alone. Somebody even tweeted that the best way to guard Jared Allen is to have a guy like Jared Allen on your team. They were playing against him. Hey, I didn't get you don't have to show this, Judy. I know we're out of time, but have you all seen what Deandre Hunter's doing?
Yeah.
Playing really well. He got blocked by Giannis at the rim, and a great block by Giannis, but I love that he tried dunking on Giannis. He's really coming. Yeah, Atlanta's got some interesting things happening. And Jokic just lost his assist lead. He was leading the league in assists.
Harden leading now? I think Harden
I think qualified now, and he leads. And Jokic is number 2.
Yeah, Jokic is playing incredible.
Incredible. They're coming. They've won 3 in a row now too.
I think for them, my question for them is going to be ultimately defensively, right? Who are they getting stops when they need to?
And also the word I use for Embiid is Shacky. He's putting up Shaq-like numbers now. Over 31 PER. Yeah. He's destroying people.
Listen, Philly.
This is going to be, these playoffs are going to be interesting.
Listen, Tobias is playing well again. Doc is the Tobias whisperer. He's got Tobias playing good ball again.
And that's a great point, Gerard. Yes, great point. They're number 1. I have them as pragmatic, the Sixers. They're number 1 in fast break points. Wow. And they've got Embiid if they don't score in the fast break. Yeah. Right? So Simmons in the full court, Embiid in the half court. That's money.
It is. Caleb.
It's really working.
We got the Bucks and the Heat and the Celtics. There's a lot going on. Okay, we are out of time. Thank you so much, Gerard. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, David. Thank you, David, for running the whole show. That was very helpful.
Be safe, everyone.
See you guys.